Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I am your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout their business career. And as always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. And on today's show, our special guest is JM Ryerson. He is the owner of Let's Go Win, where he partners with companies as a fractional executive and leadership strategist, helping align sales, leadership, and culture to accelerate growth. So, JM, it's great to have you on the show today. And I want to start off with a question I always love asking. And it is this: if you were to somehow be able to go back in time when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give to yourself?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would have been way more intentional and clear about culture. I know it sounds, and it's what I coach on today, but it makes life so much easier when you're really clear on who you are, how you behave, who you want on your team, or more importantly, maybe who you don't want on your team. And I look back at company one, we succeeded, but man, it was through a lot of hard work, which look, all companies work hard, but it didn't have to be as hard. There didn't have to be as many sacrifices. And I think had we been more clear, had I known what I know today, oh my gosh, brother, I can't even imagine the success we would have had back then. And we were pretty good then. If I could go back, we were kind of young and dumb and running hard. But man, if we were intentional, wow, it would have been pretty awesome to see what would have come from it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, intentional and culture, you're saying? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 100%. Just knowing exactly who you are, how you behave. Basic questions, but most companies don't get clear on that. And that's a huge part of what I help a lot of companies do.
Yeah. So let's look at that then, because I know in the beginning of a business, there might be a lot of questions around what's the culture and where we're going, or maybe there's not. Oftentimes there's not as well. But oftentimes when you've got really stuck into your business, maybe you just kind of go, well, this is our culture, and you take it for granted, or you're not really on track with that. What are some of the key things for people looking at what is the company culture? Is it actually helping us to move forward with what we're wanting to achieve, as opposed to just the cliche, make sure you've got a company culture? What are some of the biggest challenges or themes that you see businesses have in that area?
Yeah, I'll ask every company the same question, and it will answer your question, I promise, Jason. What is your company culture? And I'll ask one executive and I'll get various answers. Then I'll ask the next and I'll get a different answer. The next different answer. And the point is, at some point, every company starts with a vision statement, a mission statement, and then it's probably really long-winded and it ends up somewhere on a wall, maybe in a drawer somewhere in a desk. And that's typically how it takes place. That's most companies. Now, there is a culture that's happening, whether you want that culture or not. And so it's really getting clear on who are we? And what I coach on is what are the three cultural values that you absolutely stand for that are innate to your DNA. And when you do that, what happens is now you start to attract the people that you really want that have those attributes. And now you get everybody rowing the boat in the same direction because you don't have people not really bought into what you're trying to do. And that's where a lot of the challenges come from, Jason. It's just amazing how we want to do these great things, but we don't define exactly what it is. And so when you get that clear, and again, for me, I am a great example. Company two, we had six cultural values. And I'm on stage talking to, we had about 1,500 total people that worked for the company. And I only remembered four. Now, remember, I'm one of the executives that came up with the cultural values, and I could only remember four of the six. The point is, it was too many. When we
Mm.
dropped it down to three, everyone now knew what those cultural values were. They knew exactly how to show up, and our growth just took off. And that's what I try to coach today is like, look, it's not bad to have all these aspirational values, but let's get clear on exactly what your core values are. And let's make sure everyone from the CEO to the most brand new employee, everyone in between knows exactly what those values are.
I love that. I love that. One of the things you said, JM, is that you have a culture whether you've defined it or not. And I think that is really impactful because um, there is a culture. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that and uh, what actual impact, and I'm assuming it's usually more negative than positive if that's happening, but what are the actual impacts to a business when they're by default letting
Yeah.
a culture run?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Yeah,
no, no. Yeah, go for it.
100%. I see this often where you have a culture that is, let's say you want it to be competitive. Now, competitive can be really good and healthy competition, or sometimes it can be cutthroat and absolutely destroy the morale of the company. And you just want to be clear on what is that. So if competition or competing is one of your core values, healthy competition, I'm guessing most companies would want. And so what happens is if you don't define it, it's happening. And your retention typically goes down. Your morale is maybe not the best. When companies are really, really intentional about this is who we are, they start to have people say, oh, I want to be a part of that company. They raise their hand. They're like, yes, that's the company I want to be at. But what happens in a hiring process, if you're not clear, you end up attracting some of the people that aren't really going to support what you're doing. And it ends up just taking up a lot of time and energy. And so that's why that word, I know it's been used a lot through the years, but yet still most companies don't know how to define it. They don't take the time to slow down to say, who are we? And then when you start to hire people, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. And I can tell you the way you started this interview, company one to company two, had we had what we had, because we had a young, hungry group, but we didn't have a clear culture. When we did that at company two, we were good, but the only reason we were better than company one performance wise is because we were so maniacally focused on it. And then company three was outstanding because I had learned all those lessons. I scraped my knees and it was like, oh, and growth just absolutely took off because we started that way that this is exactly who we are. This is how we behave. This is what we're doing. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was like Moses parting the Red Sea. It literally it felt that easy. Everything just aligned.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. I've got a question actually for you. This something that happened several years ago, and there was a company that kind of was associated with, and I'd love to hear this because I think that there is times where the leader of the organization may have particular cultures that they've brought into to the business, and when there are challenges that come as they do in business, um, the team started to remind, hey, we're moving away from our values, we're moving away from our culture. There's a shift where we're letting the challenges of the business take us away from that. Um, what would you say for leaders that they they maybe resist it because their team is like calling them out like, hey, we're going away from this, and sometimes it could be pride or it could be fear or whatever about leaders actually going, you know what, yes, you're right, or that challenge, because when you're a leader you're like, no, I'm going this, I'm going this, and you don't want to hear sometimes what people are saying. What are some of those challenges that you found, and how to overcome those things as well?
Yeah, it's a huge point for leaders. And Ray Dalio talks about this idea of radical transparency. And he has one of the biggest hedge funds in the world, in large part because of what he asks for feedback. In fact, the only time you get in trouble at his company is if you don't provide that feedback. Now, that is a radical example of a company saying, hey man, everything's on the table, call me out. This is the only way we're going to get better. That's not always comfortable for a lot of leaders, right? That's a big step for a lot of leaders to say, call me out on my faults. Feedback is absolute gold. because again, there sometimes ego gets involved. And so what I would say to leaders is, look, if you really want to have strength and influence and people to buy into the vision of the company, you need to also be extremely willing and able to hear their feedback and know that it's not personal. It is literally, it's a business. We are in a business setting. The feedback they're giving you, if they're saying, hey, we're getting away from who we said we were going to be, okay, do we need to either look at the vision of the company? Is it one person that's separating? And what that leader will typically see is those people will start to remove themselves if the company doesn't make that shift. So I hope that the leader is willing to say, you know what, I value your opinion. Thank you very much for checking me. But oftentimes that's not always the case. And you will see, and we've seen it in the downturns, when companies are really clear and strong in their culture, they don't have the recession hit them as hard. They don't just go by the wayside. They make it through those tough times. Any company can succeed during the great times, whether you have a
Mhm.
great company culture or not. When good things are going, everybody's doing. When times get hard, that's when you know we have a strong culture and it's one that's supporting our growth, or unfortunately, you know what? We really need to take a look at this. And sometimes it can be too late. That's what I want companies to avoid.
Yeah, I love that. It's something you said was really powerful there, and I think everyone listening needs to really hear that, JM. As you said, a strong company culture with strong people in there will help you through those tough times. And you said, I can't remember exact the words, but often you said when there's like recession or challenging times, it's those companies that can actually power through those. And I love that. That's really, really powerful. So that people don't just take advantage of the, oh yeah, we've got a good company culture, when really you may not have at all. So really powerful stuff. Well, over the next 2 to 3 years, JM, what are you wanting to achieve in the business? What are your goals, outcomes you're looking for?
Yeah, man, I love that question. So I have a couple cool projects going on. One, in actually, it's a mastermind group in the dental space. And the reason I'm passionate about that is mental health is extremely important to me. So I'm watching that grow and and it's awesome. But really, what I want to be able to do is affect change with as many companies as I can humanly. Now, I can only partner with so many. Like right now, I told my team I can take on two more partnerships with companies. Now, here's the crazy thing. Every company that I've had a chance to be a part of for at least a year, the revenue has doubled. Now, that's great. That's awesome. Gift from God. Thank you so much. I love that. But I also want to impart to companies that I can't exactly partner up with. And so what I've been working with my team is really a lot of the content that I've put together that's not readily available to the public. It's only available if you had hired me. And so in the next 3 months, so I'm looking quarter 1 of 2026, having that app available for everybody so that if you're like, okay, that sounds great, JM, you want to build this culture, how do I do it? Here's the roadmap. Here's exactly how you can do it. So it's going to be an exciting 2026. I'm really excited for what that looks like based on projections right now. But I just love it, Jason. I love getting to do what I get to, doing this. I love podcasts, the other cool thing, but helping companies reach their dreams. That's now my work. That's what I love to be a part of. So I'm hoping to reach as many businesses as humanly possible, and that app is certainly going to help with that.
I love that, man. You're speaking to me, JM. I'm really big on impact and helping people, and I think whenever anyone has a true purpose driven, um, almost like a calling or drive behind them. I love that, man. It's very, very cool. Well, James, for people that want to find out more about you, what's the best place to go or get in contact with you?
Yeah, thank you, brother. So I would say Let's Go Win has a ton of free resources. So if you're listening today, you're like, oh, that's cool. Go on there. There's so many blogs that I've written and other tools that are free and available to you. Also, the Let's Go Win podcast is something that I'm proud of doing. And Jason, thank you so much for having me on. And then anywhere, if you look up Let's Go Win, you'll see my face. And truly, if you reach out, you will get a DM back from me. I don't have my team do that. It's if you reach out personally, I will hit you back, and I love doing it. So, yeah, brother, I just appreciate the time.
That's amazing, JM. Well, it's great to have had you on the show, and definitely everyone reach out to JM if you feel like you can get some value from what they're doing, what you know you can do. And as a reminder, everyone, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That is Jason Osborn on LinkedIn, and that will be in the show notes as well. And until next time, stay inspired.